I think people just think vanity when they think hair care, and I think that's the other barrier, having to knock that down. Like, this is more than just vanity. This is your health. This is your hair, and you're even tying your hair into your health.
Meet Ellana Stinson, founder of Safo Hair. We explore how beauty, identity, and entrepreneurship come together and what it takes to build something that truly matters. Welcome to the Purpose Profit Shift, where real stories about bold shifts illuminate how we can create a new economy. I'm your host, Rachel Bernier Green, social entrepreneur, activist, and founder of Safo Financial Advisory, a finance consulting firm designed to help purposeful businesses change the world. This show is powered by Safo Financial Advisory. If today's conversation sparked something for you, if you're sitting with questions about your numbers, your model, or what's next, that's exactly the work we do at Safo. Fractional CFO support for founders who refuse to separate money from mission. Book a conversation at jointhrivo.com. My guest today is Dr. Ellana Stinson, board-certified emergency medicine physician, MBA, MPH, president and founder of the New England Medical Association, Trichology certified, and the CEO and founder of Safo Hair, a certified B Corp clean beauty brand built at the intersection of health, heritage, and hormonal change. After her own journey through thyroid cancer and reproductive health challenges, she stopped waiting for the beauty industry to catch up and built the solution herself. This is what happens when a physician decides hair is health. Dr. Ellana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is something I have been waiting for since we met at the B Corp Champions Retreat Conference, because as I learned more about your story, and especially I had this kind of personal connection because the hormonal hair loss was something I experienced postpartum, and I never knew that there were hair care brands out there that actually paid any attention to it because I couldn't find anything. And so I just had to sit and wait years for my edges to come back. And then I met you.
Yeah, well, no, there's us. There's us. And I think, that was my issue too. I didn't think brands cared about it. So I got to work and started building Safo, and I'm so glad to be here to talk about it some more, my journey.
Yes, I am looking forward to getting into it. And for our listeners, because I've had the privilege of getting to know Safo Hair and really digging into the research, I'll just share to give you a little bit of context that Safo Hair is a physician-founded clean beauty brand redefining hair care at the intersection of health and hormonal change. The brand formulates plant-based, paraben-free, silicone-free, dermatologist-tested products that address scalp health, hair growth, and hormonal hair wellness, with a particular focus on women navigating life stages, including pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause. So, Ellana, you're an ER physician, and you have all of these other accolades and things that keep you busy. So when you introduce yourself, which of those do you lead with? What enters the room first?
I don't. So it's weird because I always have this argument with people. They're like, "Why don't you introduce yourself as a doctor? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" And I always tell people, like, what I do for work does not define who I am. And I always introduce myself as my name. And then if anything else is important in that room, then I'll introduce that. But I feel like I always want to connect with people and not have them connect with what I do when I first meet them. So it really depends. You're always getting my name, and it depends what I say after that based on which room I'm in. So if I'm in a room full of, like, physicians, I usually just walk in and say my name and where I work because there's that commonality there.
Right.
But if I'm at community events, I typically just walk in and wanna be just a community member unless it's important to bring up a title, just to
Yes.
demonstrate, like, "Hey, I actually do know what I'm talking about," because as a woman, we oftentimes no one wants to take us seriously, so every now and then you have to sprinkle in some of those titles just so that people will listen to you, but I try not to, unless it's needed in a certain situation. And obviously, if I'm in a pitch competition or something talking about Safo, I'm throwing out everything that shows people that I know what I'm doing, and this is why I built this brand, and you should trust me. But unfortunately, sometimes those titles are needed to build that trust. So
Yes.
I feel like that's necessary, then I'll throw it out. But I always tend to tell people, usually most rooms, that I am a physician, because I think that is one title that really expands across all industries and people can connect with the most, either their own experiences in the hospital or family members that it might have been physicians or family members that have been in hospitals. And I think people connect with that the most.
I love that answer because it hits on, and this is something that has come up in the last couple of episodes that I've recorded that have all been with women and about how important it is that our identity is not caught up in our titles or the task that we complete or the work that we do, that
Mhm.
we realize that our self-worth and our value as humans is innate and separate from those things, while also carrying the full reality that in some rooms, to be taken seriously, that we have to pull, we have to roll it all out and say, look, this is why you should listen to me. And wish it was not the case, but we do know that in some spaces that is what we need to do to get people's attention.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I mentioned I always get like people who know me, they're like, "Why are you not telling people? Why are you not doing this?" I'm like, "Will that change how you view me if I tell you?" And I was like, "When I leave work, I am no longer practicing as a doctor, so you don't really need to dress me as such because that's what I do, that's my job. Like that's not who I am and what makes me who I am, my morals or my characters, that's not it. That's just I went to school to do a job, so that does not define me."
Yes, it does not define you. But I will say that I think that the fact that you have gone through the path of, we all to some degree know what doctors go through, that is an arduous path to follow, and then that you went back to school for other things, that it does show some of your character, that you are persistent and that you are, a voracious learner, and that you seek to master things that you do, that you did not just say, I'm going to, tinker around and I, may stumble upon a solution, that everything that you do is rooted in science because, you started with a chemistry degree in undergrad that you actually got trichology certified to as you're looking to do hair products. So the science and the kind of weight that carries in this space is definitely a distinguishing factor. And the fact that you have the wherewithal to carry both of those, that yes, I'm the real deal. I did all of this stuff. And also that doesn't have to define who I am in every room that I walk into, is something that I absolutely love, because
That's
it
true.
takes a lot of grace to carry both of those simultaneously.
Thank you.
So I would love to know, um, what was the moment where you realized that hair belonged in the same conversation as health?
So I was in my early 30s at the time, and I was diagnosed with menopause, early menopause, like idiopathic, not sure what happened. And I started to see all the changes that come with that, like the mood changes, the skin changes, the weight changes, and then the hair, right? Like I'd always had like long, thick hair, and it just was doing its own thing at the time, and I was like, I don't like it, right? I found like top dermatologist, and I actually didn't even know who to go to, right? Like I was like, my hairstylist can't tell me what to do, like, and as a physician, it really struck me, and I was just like, huh, like I wasn't thinking about menopause at like 30, 31, and I was just like, what? It was so weird because like these are things that we study in medical school, but when it actually happens to you, you're like, wait, what is this?
Right.
I was like, who do like am I'm like, I remember being like getting out of the shower with like hair falling out and stuff. I'm like,
Oh,
who do I talk to? Right?
right. You got to
I
talk
was
to
like,
somebody.
I
Got
talked
to
to
do
the
something.
OBGYN. I was like, no, they just study like the female parts and the ovaries. And I was like, okay, do I go to my hairstylist? Like, I've never had a hairstylist give me tips before on like how to fix my hair. Like usually if your hair is damaged, they just make it pretty and send you out the door. They don't tell you typically, not all of them, some of them probably do, but I've never encountered any that really was like, well, this is what you need to do. Da, 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 da. Because they just have cosmetology degrees. You don't think that they'd be able to whatever. But I'm thinking, okay, this is a health issue. Not only am I on thyroid medications, but I got all these other things going on. And I was like, started like putting dots together, and I was like, I need to go see a dermatologist. I need to go see a dermatologist. So I actually go and they hand me some stuff, and I'm just like, the nurse hands it to me, and I look at her, and I was like, I'm black, right? I can't use I can't use this stuff. I was like, I already know this is not gonna work for my hair because I feel like I tried some stuff before, and I was like, nothing in the dermatology space is ever made for like black skin or black hair. Thankfully, that's starting to change now because more and more people are realizing like everything we've been taught has been on white skin and things like
Right.
that. So I actually went back to a friend and I was just frustrated. And he was like, why don't you just make your own? And I'm like, I'm a doctor. I don't know how to make hair shampoo and this, that. And then, like any other time, if I don't know something, I start going to workshops, showing up in rooms, learning more
Mhm.
information about things. So that's where it really started. And I realized there wasn't anything on the market. There wasn't really anything that focused on women going through their hormonal journeys. And I was like, this is wild. So I know I'm not the only one. So, I, started with customer discovery interviews and they were having issues, may not have been like due to menopause, but some of the same issues and weren't really finding solutions. So I started to see gaps in the industry that I'm like, well, I can start building and see where this goes. But I always had this thing where I'm just a doctor, right? But I had to learn it like everything else I've had to learn through workshops and trainings and certifications and schooling, and just being able to learn all the logistics around like how do you formulate a product, how do you bring it to market, manufacturing,
Mhm.
logistics, operations. So that's really where it started by recognizing that there wasn't anything on the market, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
So let's go back to the time that all of this was happening, because this was happening kind of like during the early pandemic. So walk us through that timeline and how going through all of this and trying to learn these things and trying to build a business that you launched in, was it 2020, 2021?
Around 2021, I think, I started thinking about the idea in 2019 because, I'd been having these issues years before, but the idea came about in 2019. My friend was like, just stop being silly and do it. And then I actually started the process in 2020 and then found it in 2021.
That's awesome. What is, since you were not really planning this journey, it wasn't like you had your heart set on being an entrepreneur and like knew this was going to be your path. What has been one of the most surprising things that you have found on the journey of starting Safo Hair?
One is the marketing costs. I always thought that
Mm.
once I put a product out on the market, people are going to come buy it because there's nothing else. But reaching those people, like obviously, I'm not in the marketing space. You open up hospital doors and people just flood in. Like you don't have to send an alarm out. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just put it out there, they'll find it. But the marketing dollars and the strategy required to find your audience and your people is probably the biggest thing that I did not factor in early on. And I
Yeah.
think and we go back to this trust piece, right? Just because you put a product out there, there's so much hair trauma out there that people want to trust you. And I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a huge presence on social media. So I didn't already come in with that. So having to build that has been the biggest shocker, I think, coming from someone who was not traditionally in this space.
Oh, absolutely. I think that that is so common that we, to a certain degree, often come into things with this build it and they will come mentality,
Mm.
and realizing how much work and intention goes into everything around marketing can be quite a shock to our systems
Mhm.
um, when we don't uh, come from that space. So, as you've learned more about the marketing component, One of the things that I heard you talk about is how coming from a science and medicine background, the evidence carries the weight, and that convinces people to do something because of the evidence. But with the marketing piece, it's really the storytelling that connects with people more so than the evidence. And the evidence is still important, but it's secondary because it doesn't draw people in right away. How did you kind of make peace with that, and what adjustments did you have to make to your strategy as you were figuring out that you needed to lean into storytelling?
Yeah, so I feel like that's something we're always tweaking, right? So, I know the evidence. One, we are just starting to complete all of our clinical trials. So, like, historically, we know what the ingredients do, what they're supposed to be, what the results are supposed to be. But I think those clinical trials gives us even more evidence about specifically our products. And I think having those before and after pictures is also helpful. But being able to tell the story really around the brand and like me as a founder tends to be more effective. And being able to tell that consistently where it resonates with people, and then backing that up with evidence, I feel tends to be the strongest piece that we've been able to do. And that clinical trial data has been given us the ability to back not only the founder story, but then back up the story of the products and the mission and the purpose. So we've been really tweaking that lately as we were coming out of those clinical trials to be able to make sure that we are honing that information in with the target audience that we know this will resonate the most with, and being able to tell that story as effectively as possible through imagery and social media, which is a whole nother skill set. I don't know if I've perfectly mastered yet, but like I feel like if I get someone in front of me and I'm talking to them, sold. But like telling that story on a platform, social media platform, when I'm not face to face is a lot more challenging.
Yes. And you know what? I actually just had my family and people that know me well, they call them brain tornadoes. Um, there is from another podcast guest, she introduced me to someone who runs a marketing firm for women who are building category creating brands. And that is you.
Oh my God,
And
I
they
might need to
have a
connect.
full focus, yes, marketing agency designed to help women with powerful stories build category creating brands. And all of that is yelling at me that I need to do some connections after this podcast. Um, because I'm with you. Marketing is definitely my weak point. Um, Even in school and all of my academic endeavors, I leaned into things that I felt had more objective answers. And I got frustrated with things that did not because I'm like, how can you grade me on something that is so subjective? Subjective. That is just your opinion. That's not entirely true, but as a student, that's how I often felt. And so then to come into this world of marketing, and it's like, what do you mean? I'm doing something that can change people's the trajectory of their lives, and I have to like get
Yeah.
on social media and talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I'm curious how people were doing this before social media. Like, I feel like maybe it's easier for service industry spaces, but maybe not. I don't know. But the fact that this whole marketing, like, I went to business school. I think I took a social media class, but it wasn't enough. I almost feel like I should have gone out and worked for a company doing marketing because there's a lot of psychology that goes into it.
So
But even
much.
when like I was creating the brand itself, like the psychology of like the colors, the fonts, the placements, the stories
Yes.
behind all of that. And I was like, I just want a label. Like, why are we doing all this? But like, there's so much that goes into it. So
Right.
when I'm out in public and people see the brand, like they're just like drawn to the look and the aesthetic. And I was like, the psychology of the aesthetic piece is mind blowing. Like, how do people know this? It's
Yes.
mind blowing. And I'm like, that's not my strong point.
And you know what? I had to realize early on in entrepreneurship that everything is not going to be my strong point. And so I am going to go out there and find the smartest, most driven people I can, where this is how their brain works
Mhm.
intuitively. And I'm going to partner with them. I'm going to bring them in on it and say, hey, I need some help because this is not my jam.
Yeah. No, exactly. I get it.
So, speaking of storytelling, you are Safo is a certified B corporation. And at the time that you certified, you had a B impact score that was more than double the median for businesses that complete the assessment. And one of the things that I'm learning about the B Corp process is that there's a lot of storytelling involved there because a lot of consumers aren't familiar with what it means to be a B Corp.
Yeah.
And it really resonates with people once they understand. But how do you approach the storytelling of that angle? Is that something that is prevalent in your marketing, or that you are still kind of playing around with? How do you or do you tell that story?
Leading up to the retreat, we were doing a lot of posts around it. We sprinkle it. We were heavy after I got certified and right before the retreat, so it's kind of something that's lightly sprinkled in. I do feel like a lot of people aren't fully aware of B Corp. But the ones that are, it's such a supportive community. Like people who know
Yes.
about B Corp, they're dedicated to it. They're like, I'm only buying B Corp companies. I'm only buying women-owned companies when they not only, but when they see them they will have a preference for a B Corp or a women-owned company. So I appreciate that. I think there's still a lot of work to be done to get that out there. I don't think people also realize the work it takes to become B Corp certified.
Yes.
It is
It
a
is not a
lot.
marketing
It is
label.
not easy.
Process.
But even aligning yourself with the B Corp principles is also it wasn't hard for us because we were already doing it. It just made sense that we were already mission aligned with like what B Corp stood for. I built this brand not only to help women who weren't being seen and heard in the hair care industry, but also around centering and thinking about textured hair and all of this, right? So I'm not building the brand specifically for textured hair, but I'm building the brand specifically to help people who help women, but also center textured hair in it so that women with textured hair can also have a solution. Because oftentimes, what
Yes.
we find in the clean beauty space is a lot of products that are for like your 1C, your finer, or 1A, 2A hair types that are finer and then don't really work on our hair type. So, yes, it's clean, but then it's not really giving us the moisture we need or maybe damaging our hair even more. But then there's hair thinning products that yeah they're great for the thinning, but then I have to go buy a whole nother line of products that help actually maintain my hair so the ends don't fall off. So I wanted to
Right.
make sure that I was being strategic around even the formulations to where I'm providing the right mix of things for a wider range of hair types while
I love that.
addressing the issues of hair loss and thinning. But in saying so, like a lot of products for women with textured hair are not safe. So, that then my public health mind kicks in. Majority of our products are laden with like toxins that are associated with uterine cancers, breast cancers, reproductive health issues. And we're already seeing those disparities on the healthcare side. Like, we haven't quite linked a lot of this to the consumer goods space, but if, there was a study that was done by one of the researchers here down the street at Harvard that showed that Black and brown communities had higher densities of these products that were toxic and harmful compared to like our white
Right.
counterparts. So we're already being exposed at a much higher rate. And then
Right.
McKinsey puts out an article a few years ago, like in order for us in the Black and brown community to even get access to these clean brands, we got to drive 25 more minutes to get to it. So
Right.
it's like
So it's
even those small disparities, and I wanted to bring all of that into like the brand and that fits so well within like the social justice space with B Corp and the work that we do with the International Girls Academy and like mentoring girls. Like that's always been a piece, a part of like what I do at Baseline. So I bring
not.
all of my passions and my in advocacy and policy into this beauty space as well. And it just fits so well into like the mission alignment with B Corp certification.
Yes, it is really a testament to how deep that work goes and why there is such a role for education and advocacy and when it comes to this work, which people wouldn't necessarily tie right off the bat to thinking a hair care brand would need to really engage in this.
Yeah, I think people just think vanity when they think hair care, and I think that's the other barrier having to knock that down. Like, this is more than just vanity. This is your health. This is your hair,
Yes.
and you're even tying your hair into your health. So even sometimes I see patients who have diabetes and they're on certain blood pressure medications and their hair is thinning and falling out. And no one's ever told them, like, if you don't control your diabetes, your hair is going to fall out. Or maybe this blood pressure medication may be causing some of this hair loss. And those are conversations that still aren't really being had. And it's not my place to have them, but I think I'd like to bring more awareness to this space so that more physicians can start thinking about these things. It's not addressing it as like, oh, it's just stress. Oh, you're just stressed out. That's why your hair is falling out. Like, no, let's try switching to another blood pressure medication.
Right. Like there are things we can do. And also, I hate when people say just stressed, as if stress does not kill people.
It does, but I think the thing is the stress, the cascade of things that stress leads to. I think just
Right.
starting at stress and not addressing those other rungs is the problem. So,
Because stress, chronic stress that is untreated, it does not, it's not benign. It's not something that you don't need to be concerned about.
but then I think I also ask myself when my patients come in and they say I'm stressed, it's not something that I can treat from an ER
Right.
standpoint. And I think this is the whole wellness conversation that we have. And we like to think of it wellness as like a privilege thing for people who are in a different economic category. And everyone also doesn't have the privilege to just stop and meditate sometimes. It
Right.
it's time consuming and it's a privilege to be able to focus on your wellness. So I think there is a role for us to play in the healthcare space to start to build some of that out, but it doesn't align with, like, payment structure, so it's gonna be really hard, but I think therein comes opportunity for other industries to start really focusing in on it, and one thing that we would like to do with Safo is tie in that health and wellness to your hair, and again, not just vanity, and we'll be coming out with a workbook actually to help people think about how the wellness piece is tied into your hair care, because it's not
Good.
something that people intuitively think about, right? Like, when you're doing your hair care wash days, we don't wash our hair as often. Like back when I was a kid, it would be on the Sunday or Saturday night. Like, let that be your wellness. Like, tie that in, right? So there's ways to think about this because stress does kill. But I think you have to think about it from a wellness standpoint mostly and then start to have those conversations with your providers and doctors.
Yeah. Thank you so much for digging into that and kind of sharing more on your philosophy and on why this is so important that it is not at the end of the day just a vanity problem, that we're actually talking about wellness. And speaking of wellness, one of the things that I've heard you talk about before is kind of the Southern family traditions and the herbal legacy that is a foundation for some of your formulations. So, can you talk a little bit about how you honor that in the business that you're building?
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I think I told you early on, I went and sat with a friend and he was like, just start it. And I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know what to do. But then the second person I called was my uncle. And my uncle actually had hair care products when I was a kid. And back in the day, like in the 80s, we used a lot of grease and like stuff like that. So I remember specifically using his grease all the time. And my hair was long and thick and jet black, and I was like I always loved his products to where I even took them off to school with me when I went to college. And then I stopped using them as much because then, like, the acne started kicking in and, grease isn't all that great. And, oh, we were using cell phones, so, like, I would get that grease on the phone and my
Oh.
face would break out, and I was like, "I can't do this anymore." But I think culturally, things started shifting, like, people started moving away from grease and I started seeing changes in my hair when I stopped using his products, but I didn't quite correlate it at the time. So when I had those hair problems, my friend was like, just start a hair care company. I was like, I don't know how to do that. So naturally, I called my uncle, and then he's like, just grab a crock pot and get these ingredients and get in your basement and start cooking. And I'm like, first of all, there are rules and regulations around this. Granted, you were only selling to the community, so maybe those things didn't apply. But we started having conversations around ingredients and what he uses and what he does it for. And he not only does it for hair, but also health and wellness, like he was making and using herbal stuff. And I asked him, I was like, where did you learn all of this? And he said, my grandmother taught me. And I was
Oh,
like, hmm. So I do take some of those ingredients. I actually wanted to like honor that with that knowledge. But also with my background, I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And that's when I went and did the trichology certification to better understand like how the scalp and hair works more from a
mhm.
physiological standpoint. And then incorporating some of that knowledge that was shared with me from my uncle to be able to work with the chemist, to be able to utilize that knowledge at a scientific level, to be able to address have the outcomes that I was seeking for the brand. So that's how I'm hoping to continue honoring that, um,
Yeah.
and then incorporating that into all of my, products that we bring to market.
One of the things I love about that is that it feels like your brand does such a great job of marrying the chemistry as well as the herbal lineage. I find that a lot of quote unquote clean brands, they make it seem like chemicals equal poison, like all chemicals are bad. And chemistry is not inherently bad. And so to take the best of both worlds and create something, for the benefit of people who are dealing with hormonal hair issues, whether that's pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, or menopause, that is definitely a huge distinguishing factor in a very crowded marketplace.
Yeah, and a lot of storytelling around that. I don't think I've quite mastered it, but I mean, I feel like I tell it so much that it's annoying to me, but I think that there are other ways that I need to start thinking about incorporating that because other brands are not doing it.
Right,
Everything about the brand, there's some personal aspect to it from the name to the colors to like how we're formulating. But there's so many stories within this brand that I'm building that it's always tricky, like when to tell it, how to tell it, where to tell it. And like my
right.
marketing brain, which is not there, just is like, I quit. If you ask me, I'll tell you.
Right.
But we try to incorporate all of that in a lot of our social media. Doesn't always come across consistently as I like, but we're going to be definitely beefing that up over time.
Awesome. I that sounds like a great plan. And part of the reason I think that this resonates so deeply with me is that I grew up. My mom is her background's in chemical engineering, and
Mm.
so she would always and she homeschooled me for many years, and she would always say whenever someone said something that was the equivalent of chemicals are poison, she's like, water is a chemical. Like not all chemistry is not inherently bad. Like everything is made up of chemicals, and that we need to stop making it seem like everything that has to do with chemicals is toxic to the human body because that is not factual.
Yeah, and I will say, we're made of chemicals, like molecular
Exactly.
structure. So I think, coming from a chemical background, I'm like, I was doing the chemical formulations for like basic stuff to, air and water and like
Right.
basic stuff. So like to me, I didn't always think of it as that. But I think, there's so much behind the word chemistry that people just think about like chemicals and like tie that into industrial stuff. But if you think about it, I've had patients that come in dying from drinking too much water. Like that will kill you, literally.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
I've had people come in because they've been taking all these supplements and their kidneys are shut down. Like herbal, plant-based stuff will kill you. So anything not done in the right amount or formulation, which is hard for like someone who hasn't studied this to know for sure. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the tricky part, right? Like think clean and
Right.
herbal, healthy, but like it can shut your liver down. Like I had someone doing some type of juice cleanse that they found on TikTok, and now
Oh
their
no.
liver is all messed up, and I'm just like,
Mm.
oh god. And it was
Right.
herbal. It was herbal, but you have to be mindful that just because it says it's good for you doesn't mean it's good for you, and listening to professionals that actually know what they're talking about, because clean and herbal is not always the best.
Yeah. That does not mean inherently safe.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think that uh, when you have the right marketing person where that is just how their brain works and they connect with all of these storylines that you are going to be just like in a really golden position. Because I'm just thinking of all of the potential for people who are struggling, especially now that people are being more open about having these conversations about their hormones and what is happening to them during postpartum and during menopause, because those conversations used to be very hush hush. And I think we're finally getting to a place where it's not as taboo to have those conversations out in the open. So it's
Yeah.
like great timing for you.
Even at work, I work with a lot of nurses who are women, and like I'm hearing them have conversations now. Like they are not hesitant to say, I'm having a hot flash. I need to step out. Like I'm
Yeah.
just like, go girl, we understand. Or I've even had conversations like obviously we're in a healthcare setting, but even more personal conversations about it. And I'm hearing people say, how are you dealing with it? How are you, what are you using? Like those conversations were not being had 10 years ago
No,
openly.
they really were not. And it is to all of our benefit that they are happening now. So as you're building this new brand, you are, embarking on learning about marketing. You learned all about the science of our hair and scalp, and really have delved into those part of the brands. What is something that is a financial or operational challenge that you currently have that you're excited to improve?
Mm. So we're starting to think about going into retail spaces and not like your Targets or your Walmarts. And I don't think that's going to be a good fit for us at this time, anyways. But we're more and more retailers, smaller retailers, are starting to reach out to us. And I think from a financial operational standpoint, better operationalizing our manufacturing and products delivered to our retailers. So we're gonna probably
Mhm.
start in our first space in August. We just got approved. Um,
Congrats.
so getting a new run done, getting the timing of like when we get low logistically and when to run another one. And a lot of this is gonna take financing too. So like financially, that's gonna be something that I'm gonna have to learn or need to get better at balancing, because oftentimes we're not catching the inventory when it gets low enough, and then we're having to scramble and hurry up and rush and like get the products together. So I think I would love a better operational system around how to do that as we start to do more wholesaling with these retailers. I think that's going to be critical to maintain our partnership and good relationship moving forward.
Oh, that is a great answer, and something that I know that a lot of our listeners probably have dealt with, because when you are in B2C businesses, there is often the question of, at what point does it make sense for me to wholesale? What's the approach to it? What do I need to learn to do that well? And you have the fact that you have the awareness of the areas that you need to learn and kind of like what to do next already puts you ahead of the pack when it comes to competing in those spaces.
Now, I did go to MBA program in finance, so I took some operation classes, but like that's about it. Like I took the classes. Like putting it into real life practice is gonna be the trick. So I don't know. We'll I have, Rachel, hopefully we'll keep working together. You can help me operationalize this, but like I know it needs to be done. The trick, just because I know it, doesn't mean it's gonna be
Yes.
executed properly, but I am dedicated to like figuring it out and making sure we get it right for sure.
But see, that is like um, knowing what you don't know. And there's
Mhm.
there's often that gap when you have the theoretical knowledge and don't know how to execute something. But a lot of people don't even know what they do not know when it comes to a space, because it seems when you see a problem or you have a question that you do a deep dive to get that foundation in place. And I think that that will really serve you well as the business continues to grow. A lot of people are content not knowing things.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it does not strike me that you are one of those people.
No, I'm very uncomfortable if I don't know something. And that's probably why I went to school so much, because I'm like, I need to know. You're not gonna trick me.
Right, I'm going to find out firsthand,
I know.
and yeah, going to start studying it. And it, I feel like it also helps when you have areas of interest that are not siloed. because I think that really serves you well as an entrepreneur, because you are, because you don't have a background in beauty manufacturing, you get to rewrite or write your own rules. Because there's some things that I think people are conditioned to do because they're the status quo for an industry. And it can be an advantage when you're an outsider coming into an industry because you can think, okay, based on what I'm trying to build, what makes the most sense for me to do?
It's interesting because I think we've had this conversation before, Rachel, like how we have all these different, we've gone and got different educational background and things that don't seem like they come together, but in a
Mm-hmm.
way they actually do, but it helps you give you a different perspective around a lot of these things. And I was actually in a room a week ago and I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, it had nothing to do with Safo. But then my marketing hat starts coming in and I'm starting to talk, and the whole room's looking at me like, what is she talking about? This is all healthcare, right? And I'm just like, no, you need to do it. This, da, 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 da. And at that moment, I was like, how in the world am I like? And I think I got frustrated for a second because I was like, how does no one see this? And I had to think, I'm not in the room with other entrepreneurs right now. They don't think this way. But because I have this background in building this brand, some of those principles apply in the situation, and like getting this room to understand that is the tricky part, but like you're able to bring your expertise in other disciplines across the aisle, I guess, and implement
Ooh,
them to be innovative in that space because they're not thinking about things that way. So I think it gives us a strategic edge when you're able to have these different disciplines enter into, like, for you, for example, the psychology and finance. Like, most finance people aren't thinking about the psychology, but
right.
I'm sure your clients feel way more comfortable working with you because you're able to address all aspects of finance, not just the actual numbers, but the emotional piece to it as well. And I
Right.
can bring, I'm always thinking policy when I'm doing software hair. So I'm just like, why is this happening? Why is this? Who wrote this? Who is doing this? Like, why is that over there? Why is this here? And people are like, I never thought about that before. And I was like, okay. So I think it's very helpful, but it's also challenging because you have a vision or you see things in a way that other people don't see it, but then you have to convince them to buy into it. And that may take some time and it's very frustrating and challenging, but I think overall it's pretty rewarding.
Incredibly rewarding. And out of, all of the things that you are building, what is the storyline that you say that you most want people to walk away with when they encounter your brand?
Uh, with Safo Hair, that, obviously I want them to know that we're trusted. Um, and eventually I'd love to have us being positioned in a new category. I'm gonna connect with your connection. Um, and build out a category where we are seen as the lead in this space, and I want people to feel very comfortable feeling that, Safo has their back and is considering their needs.
Yeah.
And something that's trusted. Like, I don't want them to just be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go buy this brand because I heard about it," but I want there to be an emotional connection with the brand, knowing that I see my customers, I hear my customers, and this brand is built for my customers.
Yeah. And on that note, because you just talked about listening to your customers, what is like a piece of feedback that you've received from a customer that like meant the most to you?
Mm. Ooh, I don't know. I get
Because I
feedback.
know you have a product where some of your customers refer to it as liquid gold.
Yes, I don't know, I just feel like anytime I get any type of feedback, it's very for me, it's touching because I don't always get the feedback, right? So I'm always wondering, like, what are people thinking? What are people
Yeah.
experiencing? We've had a lot of people giving us feedback on our curl cream and how amazing it is, and the scalp serum, I think across the board. I mean, that was one video, oh my god, that was so amazing. So the girl that, you're referring to that video, um I was giving out samples at one point, and I would doing a lot of pop-ups around Boston, and she had used up her sample, and, like, she didn't know where to find me. I guess she didn't look us up online, but she goes to a lot of the markets, and she saw me one day at the market and just was like, I have been trying to slowly use the sample because it's amazing and it's just liquid gold basically. And she bought a whole nother bottle. And I was just like, oh my God, that feedback was so helpful. But I find that, you know, people that find us and buy us, they tend to be repeat buyers. Um,
Mm,
because our products are formulated specifically to like soothe the scalp, help make the hair thicker, make it grow in places it hasn't been growing, and it doesn't leave like the weird residues and the buildup like other products do that get frustrated with it. And it doesn't leave the hair hard and dry and brittle, which is another. I bought some conditioner the other day and I was like, that was a waste of money. Like complete waste of money. Just because I don't have a like deep conditioner. So sometimes I've been trying out a lot of deep conditioners because I'm gonna make one eventually. But it just blows my mind how these brands are so big and still have products that are like trash. But
yeah.
we're not gonna say anything there. But I think people find the products and are just happy that something that works. So I think that's whenever they come back and say, "This is what I've been looking for, thank you." I think that's really helpful. Or they'll come back. I've had people come back and say, "I really need a leave-in conditioner," and that's how our leave-in conditioner got formulated, and then it became one of one award-winning products. So, like, I listen to my clients, like, when enough people come and say they want something, I'm like, "Alright, we'll get that."
Yes. And let's, fast forward to the future a bit. What is your dream for Safo Hair? Where do you see yourself, in 5 to 10 years?
5 years, I want us to be just thriving. I want employees that are running it and equally as passionate about the brand and the company as I am. Um, 5 years just growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And after that 5 years, I really wanna start positioning myself more in, like, the foundation space and also, giving back, I mean, that's my goal and be more found grounded in the policy side of the hair care space too. I'm slowly weaseling my way in with some of the organizations that I've joined, but I think there's still so much I even need to learn on the policy side, like the regulatory side, the policy side. And I'd love to be in a space where I am helping other small businesses grow and helping communities reduce harm to communities through this industry as well. So that's ultimately the goal. 10 years, I'd love to not to be like be able to sell it but sell it to someone that can keep the mission and vision aligned with what I've originally set out. But if that's not the case, I'd still be at the helm. But like 10 years, I think I'd be tired. I think I'll be tired at 10 years from now. Like I already see it. I'll be tired.
I mean, and that would make sense because you're doing a lot, juggling a lot, keeping a lot of plates in the air.
Mhm.
And as we're wrapping up, just another kind of reflection question that I was thinking about. If a young woman, maybe one of the girls in the International Girls Academy partnership reaches out in 10 years and says, I want to do what you did, what's the part of the playbook that you hand to her? And what's the part you tell her to throw it away, that this is just bad advice?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, what I would tell her is to map it out. Well, one, I'm tell her learn her marketing first and foremost. Like, that's key. Get your marketing strategy together.
Yes.
But I would tell her to figure out her why,
Hmm.
map it out on a piece of paper, prioritize the things that she thinks are most critical, center marketing and storytelling in everything that she does, and then find the right team members before she launches anything. I think for me, I was everyone's always like, "Just if you have an idea, just go for it." I'm like, that was actually a bad idea because 'cause I'm the wrong person to tell just go for it because I will jump off the bridge without the bungee cord and be like, "I can swim with this life jacket on." I can do that with everything, but I think I could've probably done things a little bit more different and strategically upfront had I had the right advice. Um, I think I'd probably be in a different place, but that's just what I don't know, maybe not. Um, but even starting a business was like a whole new concept for me. So this was like a steep learning curve. So I would tell her to map it out and find some good mentors to
Yeah.
help them map it out.
That is great advice to pass along, as well as great advice to um, throw out. I think that I sometimes go to talks and giving presentations places, and people say, "I think that you convinced me not to go into entrepreneurship because I didn't think about X, Y, or Z, and nobody told me that that was a part of what I would need to do." And yeah, sometimes one of the things I'm talking about is how it's bad advice to just, oh, you love doing something? Then just do it.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do
Yes,
that.
please don't.
Make sure it makes sense. Make sure it makes sense. And it needs to make sense on paper. And I think also I want to be hesitant for that too, because you don't want people to not pursue their dreams because of that. And I think
Yes,
people
just be
a lot of times
informed
doubt
as you pursue your dreams.
they doubt themselves, but I think equipping yourself with
Mm,
as much information before you jump in is going to be
yes,
critical because it will tell you like, okay, what do I need to succeed? And two, if this is something that I actually want to do. Um,
right. Because I want you to jump. I just want you to jump with the parachute.
yeah.
I want you to jump having done the training, with someone who has jumped before. I want you to jump in knowing what you're getting yourself into. And if do that research and do that preparation and you're like, I'm ready, then, I will be your loudest cheerleader. But just don't jump without thinking, cannot get behind that.
I
Yeah.
actually like, it's funny because when you said jump with the parachute, and I just was like, yeah. Then you glide through, and then maybe you'll soar up a little bit, and then you can choose when you want to come down and land. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking that, but I was like, I think I jumped with the trampoline, and I just been going up and down, up and down the whole time. I was like, yeah, you want a parachute, not the trampoline.
Yes, yes, because entrepreneurship can definitely be a roller coaster, and but you move through it faster when you are positioned correctly. Solving a problem that is meaningful, and know some of the components that go into business success, and you always learn on the ground. Um, I think that would be another thing I'd add to the playbook, that you have to be curious and open to learning,
Hmm.
because I think that is definitely a distinguishing factor that I don't hear talked about a lot in entrepreneurship, but it's definitely one of the keys to success, as is illustrated by the approach that you've taken. Like, you saw a problem and then researched and found answers, looked into a variety of different spaces, and then brought the culmination of all of that together to build something that was unique and solved a real problem in a way that there isn't really anyone doing.
Yeah. And the learning is critical, and people don't tell you that too. Yeah.
Yes. So for the founders to be listening, make sure that you are ready to learn, because whether you are ready to or not is really going to be tied to your long-term success. And there are going to be things that you do not know, even if you think that you have them mastered in an academic or theoretical sense, that will come to play.
Yep.
So thank you so much for joining me, and for everyone listening. That was Dr. Ellana Stinson, the founder and CEO of Safo Hair. And if today's conversation hit a nerve, whether you've been quietly searching for products that don't fight your body, or you're a founder trying to scale without losing your soul, go meet Dr. Ellana where she's built it at sapphohair.com. And you can also follow Safo Hair on Instagram. And if you know a woman in your life that is navigating hormonal change, whether that is postpartum or any season where her hair has stopped feeling like hers, send her this episode and have her check out Safo Hair as well. Until next time. As always, if this conversation resonated with you, here's what you can do. Subscribe to The Purpose Profit Shift wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got episodes dropping regularly with more visionary founders and changemakers who are reshaping how business gets done. And if you found value in today's episode, leave us a rating and review. It helps other values-driven leaders find us. Until next time, keep leading with intention, scaling responsibly, and building businesses that matter. I'm Rachel Brunier Green, and this is The Purpose Profit Shift.